We are talking about preparation today. I have a definition of preparation.
Okay.
The action or process of making ready or being made ready for use or consideration. Again, the definition, the action or process of making ready or being made ready for use or consideration. And I would say that the younger you are, the less you value preparation. The less experienced you are, the less you value preparation. I think that we learn the value of preparation the more we have experiences without it. The more you step into new areas, new arenas, new spheres, new heights, new careers, new anything, you see that what took place before you got to the new place affects the new place. The last season affects the new season. Mm-hmm. Preparation is the action or process of making ready.
Yeah.
Ready for what? Ready for what's next. And most of the time we want what's next, but the process of making ready is something that we easily toss out the window until we go into enough new things and struggle there. And then we see that the process of making us ready can either make the new place a fun place where we get to use all the tools we just got, or somewhere that we have to fake it, somewhere that we have to experience a lot of pressure and stress as we are trying to catch up to match this new arena. Yeah. I think for me, I am a naturally ambitious person. Mm-hmm. So preparation is something that I have easily undervalued for a good period of my younger years. Mm-hmm. Because you're overconfident when you're young. And especially when you know you have certain talents, certain abilities, you even have a certain calling, you feel like you're more prepared than you are. But the more that I've gone about life, I've seen the need for preparation. I'm married now. And when Gabrielle and I started dating, the week we started dating, I was like, this is my wife.
Yeah.
And I want to get married this year. That was my approach.
Yeah.
She, fortunately, was wiser than me. She was like, nah, we need at least a year of dating. I'm definitely not even about to try to tell my dad or my brother that I'm marry this dude that I haven't even been dating for a year. And she ended up being right. We ended up dating long distance for 3.5 years. It was a process of making us ready for what was next. Mm-hmm. I would have liked what was next without the process of making us ready, but the process of making us ready proved to be valuable. Anything that God has brought me into in life, I've seen how he was making me ready before he took me there. Mm. He's always making us ready before he takes us to the new place. I think that's how God works because God is wise. Yeah. And he has decided to implement processes. We were just talking about the Ark of the Covenant. You were studying the Ark of the Covenant today. Everything that you said speaks to me about God's process of making people ready. And that he had them document the process of him making them ready. He gave them the law before they entered the promised land to make them ready for how to operate when they got there. He fed them with manna in the wilderness to prepare them, make them ready to depend on him in another space, in another season. And they needed to remember how he fed them in the wilderness. The staff, they needed to remember he made them ready for him to move on their behalf and for them to expect him to move on their behalf when he parted the Red Sea.
Yeah.
He did that, and he wanted them to remember. And you even see through scripture, he says, don't you remember? I brought you out of Egypt. I brought you through the Red Sea. I led you through the wilderness, cloud by day, fire by night. I fed you with manna. He reminds them because that was his process Each action was part of his process of making them ready.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things that he taught them was how to listen to what he said. Obeying what he said was a huge part of their process in the wilderness as they were being prepared to enter the promised land. I want to ask you, what does that speak to you as you are hearing what I'm saying and even filtering through everything that you just mentioned about the ark and your thoughts on the ark? Talk to me.
So the main thing that comes to my mind is a funny story.
Okay.
So when you talking, that's what came to my mind is painting. You know, I bought a house and I had to paint.
Okay. Yeah.
And I felt like I went to the store way too much because I had a drop cloth but no tape. I had, a rolling brush, but then I didn't have like the 3-inch. Like you need a smaller brush to cut the edges.
Okay.
And so I feel like I kept going to the store because I really wasn't prepared to paint. I just bought paint.
Yeah.
And a rolling brush because I was going to get it done quick. And then it's just, I just kept running into stuff that needed, let me go get that.
Yeah.
Oh, let me go grab that. Oh, the paint done sat too long. I need something to mix it.
Okay.
Like, that's what comes to mind is, in a practical sense, you're very right that we can easily dismiss the whole preparation piece. And so that's what comes to mind just right off bat is, okay, this is valuable, and we don't really value the preparation portion oftentimes.
Yeah.
We move past it.
Okay.
Because
now, how does that happen in life?
It happens with everything. I mean, in every category that's, like a hot topic, like your relationship.
Let's talk about it. Preparation in relationships. Importance of it. What is it?
Man, it's like you said. Most of the times you get in a relationship, you're like, I like this person. They're attractive.
Yeah.
I'm going to marry them.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about what really comes along with marriage. So the dating process is filled with ambiguity because you don't know, you don't see it as a preparation stage.
That part.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah.
Dating is a preparation process. It's the process of making you ready for the next phase. I think that has a lot to do with the mess in the dating world right now, is because a lot of us have detached from God's design of male and female romantic relationships, which is marriage, is what it's designed to be. We've detached from that. So now we're just like floating in space. No destination.
No.
There's no direction. You're not moving towards anything. And then we're wondering why many of our dating lives are not good and why the dating pool is getting more and more toxic. And I think the dating pool is getting more and more toxic because it's having less and less direction and less destination. So if you have a biblical worldview,
okay,
if you have a godly worldview, which means I am going to pursue a relationship with someone in order for this to end in marriage, then you can treat dating like a process of preparation for the next phase. But if you don't have that worldview, if you don't have marriage, because that's where a lot of people end up, is they're dating and then they get married eventually because one of them wants it to feel like secure, to look a certain way in the social sphere. I don't want to be dating and a roommate for 13 years with a child with no ring. Why do you want the ring? Because of what people think, for the most part. You don't want to be out here with no ring on your finger walking around. Like, that has a lot to do with why many people are pursuing marriage now, not because they want to get into a godly institution, but because of the social pressure.
Yeah.
So they date with no direction, and then they just kind of stumble into marriage. Whereas we could use dating the way that it's supposed to be, which is a process of preparation, a process of making us ready for the next phase. And that was a stark difference. I never dated anybody the way that I did Gabrielle, because I never dated anybody with the intention that this was a process preparing us to go somewhere. I never did that before her.
Yeah.
Before her, I dated girls that I thought were attractive with no end goal in mind. And it didn't go anywhere. With Gabrielle, our dating process was very successful because it was going somewhere, and we had direction and we had focus. And when we faced challenges, we knew that we were going somewhere, and we embraced some of the challenges that we were facing, understanding that this was actually preparing us for the next level. This was making us ready to do life together. So then we're assessing our ability to resolve conflict as an assessment of whether we will be able to do this for the long term. That was one of the things that gave me peace about marrying Gabrielle, is our ability to resolve conflict. So our dating season was making us ready. It taught us communication. We were long distance, and we had to have a lot of communication. All we could do was talk.
Yeah.
So we had to talk through every issue. We couldn't hug it out and have physical interactions to mask what was going on internally. We could only verbalize what was going on internally. So it taught us how to communicate. And that process, though I would have never chose it for myself, I would have never chosen long distance dating for myself.
Yeah.
But God knew. So God allowed us to go through this long distance dating as a process that made us ready for marriage. We benefited a lot. Like our first few, I'll say just weeks of marriage, I think were so much more fun than they would have been if we hadn't been long distance, because it was cool to just be around each other all the time. Like, it was cool. Oh man, we just get to live together and chill. You're not about to get on a plane and go anywhere. I'm not about to get on a plane and go anywhere and go home. We don't got to talk on FaceTime. Like, we don't have any time that I need to leave your house or you need to leave my house or anything. There's no boundaries. There's no nothing. And that made it fun.
Yeah.
But many of us have no boundaries. And so because we're not using our dating season as a preparation season, we are not putting any boundaries or restrictions or direction on it. So then we just stumble into a covenant and we miss out on all of the fun that we could experience as restrictions are released. So that's my rant on preparation in relationships. I think that preparation is huge.
You be saying stuff, and it be ministering, and I be like, bro, all right, now I can't talk. I gotta actually take this one in.
Word.
But I hate preparation, but you like, well, what do you think about preparation? I don't like it.
Oh man,
I don't like none of it.
I mean,
I don't like the word. I don't like the idea. I don't like none of that. Preparation.
Why? I mean, we can take the conversation where you want to take it.
Preparation, first of all, because preparation doesn't have a time frame. That's the first part I don't like. Is preparation don't have a time frame. So when you say preparation, I'm like, immediately I'm like, for how long?
Word.
Am I just preparing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even when you cooking, I would determine what I'm gonna cook. If I'm looking through a recipe book, I look to see how long the prep time is. That's gonna determine if I'm cooking this or not.
Yeah.
If it says that I need a day to prepare this, no. They're simpler meals.
Yeah.
And I prefer those.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm starting to think on, just in a real sense, on like what you're saying. Okay, you and G have had a successful dating process and a successful marriage. and are doing great with this parenting piece because of preparation. And I'm convicted in the sense of, what have I abandoned because I just don't like preparation? So that's what's also swirling in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm not just out here living rogue. You know, I'm just looking at preparation as with more disdain than value, you know? And I think that's a huge piece that I feel like I probably have a lot of friends who would agree that the preparation process on everything has always seemed to cost a lot. You know what I mean?
It does.
Versus just yield so much fruit.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. I think most of us don't like preparation because it seems like it costs too much and it seems unnecessary. So even if you talk about a recipe, it seems unnecessary to spend a whole bunch of time preparing to cook. You're like, I got better things to do, and I don't need, something that's been smoked for 14 hours. I just need to eat. I think that we can apply that thinking a little too much, though, because the level of preparation many times is directly correlated to the level of quality that you're going to get.
Right.
So on things that we don't need a high level of quality for, like I don't need to smoke a snack for 14 hours.
Right.
But if I'm preparing for a more elegant meal and I'm having some guests over that I want to feed a high quality meal, then the level of preparation makes it worth it for the intended result. If I have the governor coming over my house, am I going to feed him Kraft mac and cheese because it's quick? Or am I going to go through the preparation process to make a higher quality meal? Wisdom would say, go through the preparation process to get the higher quality meal. I honestly think that the important things in life are the same way. You don't need to prepare long for things that are not important. But like your relationship is one of the most important things in your life. It makes the most impact on your life. Outside of your relationship with Jesus, who you choose to do your whole life with matters. It matters. And a lot of us, we're not choosing somebody to do our whole life with. We're bouncing from person to person to person to person with no preparation. And then what are the results we're getting? We're getting short-lived relationships. But I would say that for the bulk of humanity's existence, we've done better in long-term relationships. You can only build a family through a long-term relationship. You can only build a healthy, solid family through a long-term relationship. We can use our common sense and we can use statistics to say that it is better for children to be raised by a healthy long-term relationship. Marriage is better for children than separation. We can use common sense, we can use statistics, right? And so our preparation process for even how we step into our relationships affects so much. It's affecting more than just a thrill I get in a moment. It's affecting whether I want to have a legacy or not. It's affecting if I do want to have children, what type of experience do I want them to have? And the preparation process is so important, making you ready for the most important decisions in your life. Career. A lot of us, we want a career like this. And we want a long-term, satisfying, fulfilling, high-yielding career like this. But the truth is, most of the time, the greater the preparation, the more secure, the more thriving the career. A career that you can step into with absolutely no work and absolutely no preparation is typically a low-end, low-yielding career. Am I right?
No, It's facts.
I can't really think of a career that you can step into with no preparation that's going to be your best option long term. Whether you're the boss starting the business or whether you're getting hired, you start a business with no experience and no preparation, you're in for a tough ride.
Yeah.
You apply for a job and you get a job with no preparation, no experience. Like, how valuable is that job to the person who's hiring you? That they're going to hire you with no experience, no preparation. The truth is, the most valuable things in life require a high level of preparation. God created each and every one of us with a calling, a vocation, not just a talent to perform at a talent show. He created us with a skill set, a wiring, passions, desires that are all leading to a particular vocation. He has work that he wants us to do. He created a garden. He placed Adam in it, told him to work it. He's still doing the same thing with us. Jesus said, "My Father is always working." When they asked him why he's working on the Sabbath, he said, "My food is to do the will of the one who sent me." That Jesus was satisfied by doing the will of the Father. He was satisfied by the work that he was doing. So God intends for us to do work. Just like you don't want a job that requires no experience and no preparations because it's probably going to have very low pay and a very low ceiling. You don't want a purpose, a calling, a vocation from God that requires no preparation. And yet, most of us, it's just natural to us that we want God to bring us into a high yielding, high value vocation and purpose with no preparation.
So I want to ask this.
All right.
Because also when you're saying this, I think there's something else that I've seen a lot of. And I've seen a lot of people jump into preparation. I'm in my preparation season. They call it waiting.
Okay.
I'm waiting well. I've seen a lot of people saying, okay, yeah, God's working on me. I'm healing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have noticed that a lot of people are jumping out of there at their own will. Like, they'll get in.
Mm-hmm.
They get in the pool.
Yeah.
They'll start the classes.
Yeah.
They'll start the healing.
Yeah.
And then they hopping out.
Okay.
Before it's done.
Yeah.
Because something in their mind is telling them, I'm fully prepared now. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
They like a raw steak. They just been in the oven. It's hot. Yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
I made a pizza yesterday and I put it in the oven and the cheese melted. And I don't know if it was the light on the oven that made it just look ready.
Okay.
So I was like, I think I only put this in for like 2 minutes.
Wow.
There's no way that this is ready.
Yeah.
But it looked ready. It looked ready, bro.
Yeah.
I'm saying the cheese was, I bought the pizza.
Okay.
I put some extra cheese on it.
Okay.
To kind of,
Sauce it up.
sauce it up. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It was pre-made. I was sauce it up with a little extra cheese.
Yeah.
So when I put it in the oven, it was still preheating. The preheat went off. It was like, ding, 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 ding. I got a nice new oven.
Okay.
So the little chime goes off to say that that it was done preheating.
Yeah.
So naturally I went in, just because it was making noise.
Yeah.
I opened the oven. The pieces in there is on aluminum foil, but the cheese is melted. Even the crust had it started browning. Okay. So it was, it went from real light to, it wasn't char, but it started browning. Okay. So I pulled it out the oven.
Yeah.
And then I cut it.
Yeah.
I was like, I ain't eating the whole pizza. So I just cut half and then I sliced it up.
Yeah.
And then I took one bite, it was cold. And I was like, well, I felt like I only put it in for a short amount of time, but it was showing all the signs. I'm being real. Yeah. It was showing all the signs of a cooked pizza.
Wow.
Till I tasted it.
Yeah.
It was cold.
Yeah.
I seen that in the dating world.
Yeah.
I seen it, I've seen it in every space I'm seeing, I'm like, man, I think that's happened to a lot of us.
Yeah.
We're not done yet.
Yeah.
But we coming out of preparation.
Yeah. I think that's especially true when you try to step into big shoes in your 20s.
Yeah.
It's just true. I think when you're in your 20s, you feel like that's that season. You're a pizza where the cheese is melted, you look ready, but you're actually cold. You're not quite prepared yet. Jesus didn't start his work, his vocation until 30 years old. John the Baptist, 30 years old. Ezekiel, 30 years old. Joseph, 30 years old. David, 30 years old. The Levitical priests, 30 years old. There's something special about when spiritual maturity and natural maturity converge. I believe that God values our natural maturity and our natural experience more than we do. Or else Jesus would have gone to the cross at 12. But Jesus didn't have disciples at 12. Jesus was in the temple asking questions. Jesus had disciples at 30, and his disciples were younger than him. They had less life experience than him. Not just less spiritual understanding, but also less life experience. So he was also helping to prepare them for natural things that they would experience in life. So preparation is extremely important, but I think we jump out of it, we back out of it, we tap out of it because we don't value it as much as we value performance. We want to perform more than we want to prepare. But the more experience you have teaches you that you perform better when you prepare well. And you perform at a lower level the less prepared you are. So for me, I was super ambitious in my 20s. I wanted to take over the world.
Yeah.
Wanted to do everything. Felt like I could do anything.
Yeah.
25. Experience shows me that my 20s prepared me to really actually be able to make a significant contribution to people's lives. That's why I believe that God had me become a pastor at 30. And before that, I was doing all kinds of other work. But at 30, I was at a space where I had experienced enough that prepared me to actually be able to lead people and shepherd people.
Yeah.
I could talk a good game in my 20s.
Yeah.
I could walk it better in my 30s.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of us are, man. And it's not always that. It's not always 20s versus 30s. Some of us are getting prepared for stuff until we're 40 years old. But I think some of it is every season is always a preparation season. And sometimes we idolize some big, grand promised land moment that is not the major focus of our lives. It's just going to be a season of our lives. So some of us, we feel this calling, we feel this purpose. And when we get there, it's also going to be a preparation season for what God has next.
Yeah.
So if we look at life through the lens of how God operates, God is always moving forward, meaning there's always a next, meaning now is always preparation. And if we view it that way, we won't step out of preparation because we are technically always in preparation.
Yeah.
And if you've lived enough life to understand what I'm saying right now, that means that you are also in a season that you were prepared for beforehand. So you're in a promised land and in a wilderness right now.
Yeah.
It's just the reality.
Yep.
That even when God brought the Israelites to the promised land, they still had to fight.
Yeah.
Different enemies were coming.
Yep.
Different things were going to happen. Different kings were going to come into control, and they were going to have different challenges, and they were going to have to continually remember that they had to depend on God. They were going to always have something that they were looking forward to, some type of relief that they were looking forward to. We always have some type of relief that we're looking forward to, some type of next season that we're trying to get to. Right now is always preparation, but if we don't treat it that way, then we won't prepare well.
Right.
And so I think that the dangerous thing is God will let us pass with a C or a D on the test when we don't have to. We could prepare well. And so sometimes we will undervalue our preparation season, and so we don't prepare well. And he'll take us to the next season, and then we'll just look back and be like, wow, I could have focused a lot more. If I knew I was going to be here, I would have focused more in the last season instead of spending 80% of my last season worrying if I'm ever going to get here.
Yeah.
And worrying didn't prepare me to get here.
Nope.
Preparing to get here would have prepared me to get here. Worrying doesn't do anything. This is why Jesus tells his disciples, worrying can't change anything in your life. You can't accomplish or change any circumstance by worrying. So don't do it. Let tomorrow worry about itself. You focus on today because today is preparing you for tomorrow. I added that last piece. Today is preparing you for tomorrow.
Yep.
That's how I view it.
Yep.
And it's when we don't have that mindset that we step out of preparation. And I think it's because we undervalue it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm thinking on Jesus saying, I go to prepare a place for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I think that you were hitting the nail on the head because we're all treating preparation so casually as if it's in the way.
Yeah.
Versus it being the goal.
Yeah.
Because preparation says a lot about your next.
Yeah.
You study different for finals than you do for pre-test.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so some of the preparation is speaking to where you headed.
Absolutely.
And most people aren't looking at what is this season of life? What am I being prepared for? And what is it saying about where I'm going? Question that I got from it.
Okay.
We get on the same page that, okay, I need to be preparing and I need to value preparation.
Mm-hmm.
How do I know when we're transitioning from preparation to me being in a new season and new preparation?
The door opens. I say has a lot to do with it. You know that the next season is here when the door opens for the next season. Not just any door, but the door. And time teaches you that. You have to be prepared to even assess when the next season is here. Experience teaches you how to assess opportunities. When we don't want to have discipline in the preparation process, we miss out on tools like that, like the ability to discern opportunities. Patience will lead you to discern opportunities instead of just jump at them. But it's impatience that makes us take any opportunity instead of evaluate opportunities. I was presented with a lot of different opportunities before stepping into ministry.
Yeah.
That year, several different really good looking opportunities came across my way. Yeah. But some experience had taught me the discipline of evaluating opportunities. And so I was able to know when the door had opened because I had experience with evaluating opportunities. One of the primary ways that I evaluate opportunities is through the peace of God. The peace of God. This is why relationship with him is so important, because he is a God of peace and he gives the peace of God. You got to experience that.
Yeah.
He says, Paul says in Philippians 4, don't be anxious about anything, but in all things, by prayer and petition and with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. then the peace of God that surpasses or transcends all understanding will guard your heart and guard your mind in Christ Jesus. That's not theology. That's not just theology. That's an experience. If the peace of God is guarding your heart and your mind, you know it because you're experiencing it. Yeah. If the peace of God is not guarding your heart and is not guarding your mind, you know it because you're anxious, you're fearful, you're worried. It's an experience. You know it. You know it if you have the peace of God. It's an experience and you can't fake it. I think sometimes we have a counterfeit peace. Yeah. Martin Luther King said peace is not the absence of conflict. Yep. Right? And there's a way to distinguish between the peace of God and just an absence of conflict within us. Yeah. When we're not consulting God, there's not going to be a conflict between what he's saying and what we're saying because we're not asking him. So you will be able to assess the opportunities in front of you when you become familiar with the peace of God. And you become familiar with the peace of God when you are open-handed about your opportunities. When you want it so bad that you don't bring it to him and then you have peace, that's not real peace. Real peace is being open-handed with it, bringing it to him, being open-minded, open-hearted, and saying, God, lead me, and watching how he leads you. He'll do it. Yeah. And so I think the difference between false peace and true peace from God is our heart posture. If we're not postured to truly receive from him, then we're not going to experience his peace. And we can even experience a false peace, which just means that we have built a wall around our minds and nothing else can get in. And so we're not experiencing a conflict and then we're calling it peace because nobody could tell us anything different anyway. But if you could be told different and you're open to that and you're getting a yes and you have peace about it, and then you're not feeling conflicted, well, now you're starting to experience the peace of God. And then over time, you become familiar with that. And so for me, I brought those opportunities to God. I evaluated them. Somebody offered to fund me starting a business. I priced the whole thing out from top to bottom, business plan, all that stuff, and just didn't have peace about it. Like there was just something in me that still had a question mark. Uh-huh. And because I still had that question mark inside, as I brought it to God, I just felt like the fact that I have this question mark is the absence of peace. And I said no to it. And time showed me it was the right decision. And then as you make those decisions regularly, you start to see there's a consistent pattern here. And then when you don't have that question mark and you have this peace, I had peace about Gabrielle. Yeah. Even when we were going through difficulties and challenges and conflicts, I just had this yes in my spirit about her. Not a yes from I just want this so bad that I'm ignoring stuff. It was a peace that said I'm assessing the situation. I'm looking at it face value. I'm looking this right in the face. This is much more challenging than what I expected it to be. And yet I have this peace that's like guarding my heart and guarding my mind that I am experiencing as I move forward with her. And I don't have that peace when I consider not being with her.
That's good. I don't want to move past. I don't want to move past this peace.
Okay.
Because when you said, you said this is guard your heart, guard your mind.
The peace of God guards your heart and guards your mind.
And so for my study, this concept is a war concept.
Okay.
Where they would guard a person.
That's good.
And who was like somebody they captured. They would guard someone they captured. And they would stand guard of that person. And if you let that person go, they would kill you.
Yeah.
For letting the captive free.
Makes sense.
When you say this peace that will guard those things,
yeah,
I think we cannot move past that, bro.
Okay.
I think because in conversation, I've noticed that the absence of conflict is how people are navigating peace or defining peace.
Yeah.
By, is there any conflict?
And so they try to protect their peace by removing conflict from their lives.
Yes.
Okay.
And that leads me to the issue that the Israelites had. Because they had that same mentality, they were ready to forfeit everything God had promised them.
Yeah.
Because their heart got scared.
Yeah.
Their mind said no.
Yeah.
Because it was obvious conflict in the place that they were supposed to be going.
Yeah.
I want to kind of camp out on that because I think what you're saying is that this peace, most people aren't familiar with it. So how do you start even beginning to get familiar with, we talk about it so much, peace that surpasses understanding.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody unpacks that in any way. And I know it's a large ask.
Yeah.
But I think we gotta talk about what is real peace.
Peace is what made Jesus go to the cross and not defend himself. Peace is what let Paul say he knew his time was coming to an end and he got his head chopped off. Peace is what let Peter say, I know that the time for me to put off this tent of a body is coming close, and still write what he wrote and not be worried about losing his life. The peace of God surpasses understanding. I would say, one, human peace doesn't surpass understanding. You removing everything that challenges you from your life in an effort to have peace does not surpass understanding. That is very logical and very easy. And it's a natural self-preserving technique. God wants to give us a real experience with peace that surpasses understanding, which makes him worth following. And I think when we don't factor things like that into our walk with God, it's how we get so far from him. We don't even expect things like that from God a lot of times. You know, we expect salvation at the end of the day. Maybe, hey, I believe God's going to let me into heaven because I do some good things. It is a lot of people's mentality. And God is saying, no, I can give you a peace that you could experience right now that would surpass all understanding. You wouldn't even necessarily be able to explain it. The peace of God is where you see somebody who's lost somebody closest to them go through a situation that you can't imagine how you would deal with it. And you watching a person keep it together, stay together, and be whole and be able to sleep at night. That's the peace of God. For me, man, it's the peace of God is one of the most valuable things about my relationship with him. It's what has me seek him on a regular basis because that's what his presence comes with. I think outside of God, peace is an elusive thing. It's something that we're kind of always chasing, never truly getting. We experience little glimpses of it when we're not anxious for a moment or we're not worried for a moment, things like that. But a person experiencing the peace of God has a resolve that you can't explain. Where you wonder, man, how does that person just seem like put together?
Yeah.
It's not their circumstances.
Yeah.
It's not their financial status. No circumstance, no financial status gives you peace. So somebody who is comfortable in their own skin, how can you be comfortable in your own skin? The peace of God. So many of us are not comfortable in our own skin, and no circumstances can make you comfortable in your own skin. And it's this elusive thing, man, where we will try to cover up and put stuff on us get certain status symbols. We'll try to get into relationships. We'll try to get whatever it is that we are feeling like is going to bring this sense of peace. And there's nothing that brings it except for God.
Yeah.
He's the only place that we can find it. And I honestly feel like that's a gift because it keeps us in search of him.
Yeah. Yep.
And so if you're searching for peace, you're searching for Jesus. Isaiah prophesied that he would be called the Prince of Peace. Sometimes we hear these biblical names and just fly past it.
Yeah.
He will be called Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace, Mighty God, Everlasting Father. Wonderful Counselor and Prince of Peace are attributes that I love about Jesus.
Yeah.
That's the Jesus I want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this Jesus a lot of people are talking about that is focused on all this external stuff that doesn't actually bring you peace. A Jesus who is only focused on your finances is not really bringing you peace. A Jesus who only does the stuff that you want him to do is not focused on your peace. Jesus will lead you into circumstances you don't want to go into and give you peace in the midst of them. As to prove something to you, the Israelites didn't want to go into war. God led them into war and gave them victory in war to give them peace, to make them comfortable sleeping at night. So I'm not worried about somebody just coming in here and raiding me, right? Because I know God has shown me that he'll protect me. That gives me peace. Without God, knowing that there is a God who is in control that I can trust, where can I find peace?
Right.
I don't know how you find it without God.
Yeah.
So
I think when you said that, a lot of people say, I want to be comfortable in my own skin. And it reminds me that our skin even changes. It starts to get droopy, wrinkly. So
yeah,
you really want peace.
Yeah.
That surpasses understanding.
Yeah.
And doesn't make sense with the situation because situations are always changing.
Always changing. Yeah.
They always changing.
Yeah.
Everybody feels like I'm protecting my peace at this stage in life.
Yeah.
What about next week when you lose the job?
Yeah.
What about next month when you find out you have breast cancer and have to lose the breast that made you feel at peace? What about that?
Yeah.
We haven't considered any of that.
Yeah.
And that's why we're not actually seeking peace to surpass understanding. We want peace that fits our current understanding.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what actually has us. Many of us set ourselves up for failure in marriage because we envision the whole future. And when you envision the whole future, you don't leave space for circumstances to change. And when circumstances don't go how you expected, many of us get crushed. And if we could experience the preparation of God, and part of God's preparation is giving us peace. When you know how to access peace, you can go through anything. When you know how to access peace, and when you know how to walk in peace, you can handle circumstances changing and life throwing what life throws at you. People will be torn apart because they're not married yet. When I've seen on the other side, people get married and lose their spouse right afterwards, right? You cannot prepare yourself for everything that life is going to throw at you. You have to let God prepare you, and God has peace for you. And I think that's probably the most important part of your preparation process, is getting into relationship with God, experiencing the peace of God, and learning how to walk in the peace of God. I think is the most important thing that you could do. I think it's the most important thing that you could experience in preparation for life. So, whoo, that was a good talk, man. That was a good conversation.
It's real good.
Preparation. God is a God of preparation. God prepares us in many ways, but he always wants to make us ready for what's coming next. And one of the primary ways that God prepares us is by teaching us about his peace. Peace.